My name is Robert Enton. I'm Chief Information Officer for Vornado Realty Trust. We're a New York City-based real estate investment trust. We're a public company. We own and manage about a couple of hundred properties, mostly in New York and Washington, and we have some in other parts of the country. One of the toughest things inside in most real estate organizations is the budgeting and forecasting process. Financial statements are like all other companies in terms of, they need to produce them timely and so forth, but those weren't really our problems. Our problems were the budgeting and forecasting process. In the real estate industry, what happened was there are two needs in the real estate industry: discounted cash flow analysis, which is a 15-year forward look at a property, and the immediate 1 or 2 years budgeting process. And they used to be separate. More and more they became one process. So the process gets way more complicated because in addition to just budgeting for the next year or two, you end up having to run full cash flow models for 15 years. So it's probably the biggest area of pain in our organization and most of my colleagues. We use, and I'll get to how we got to spreadsheet servers. So we use a product called DYNA, which is one of the industry leading discounted cash flow modeling programs. Our ERP system is IBS. We've used the two in concert for many years. And the process of finishing our budgeting model from those two platforms and getting them into a book was an enormously manual and arduous task. Of course, it was all done in Excel. People could grab the data out of these platforms easily and get them into Excel. But before it was done, they've had countless number of spreadsheets that were linked together. The linkages were weak. There was massive amounts of data in the spreadsheets. The performance wasn't great. And probably worse than anything, it was very error prone. This process continued to it was, the straw that broke the camel's back question. It kept getting tougher and tougher. But then management made a decision that they would bifurcate the reporting within a building to show the office segment and the retail segment as separate entities of information and then consolidate it. So overnight it basically doubled our load. And that really made the whole model break. So this takes us back to March of 2013 probably, where the decree was, it's broken, you have to fix it, find a way out of this. And the next budgeting period is September 2013, so that's a short, 6 months away, even less, to conceive, shop, buy, implement, and get running live some piece of software that would help them in this process. We looked around for a lot of different BI tools. What was most important to us was that our budget books are extremely thick and complicated with schedules, and the schedules are all, I don't want to say all custom built, but the schedules are such that normal report writing wasn't the answer. Normal report writing, which we do lots of for our end users, would cast us into indentured servitude for the rest of our lives because these schedules change from moment to moment. Every time somebody looks at it, they say, I want to add a column, I want to add a row, put a footnote, and a special calculation, and so forth. So we looked at a lot of different tools, but when we came across Spreadsheet Server, we said, wow, this lives in Excel, and it's easy enough for the end users such that we can conceive of implementing it so that they could truly build their own schedules, pixel perfect, ready schedules to go right from the legacy systems that we have into the final product. And that's essentially what drove us here. We probably bought this in maybe it's April or May or beginning of June in 2013. In about a month or so, we had to build a little warehouse to consolidate the data. Global built the connectors very, very rapidly, and by August we had results, and the results were quite good, to the point where we, as hard as it is to use it, all the users had to be trained and use it for the first time in a live environment. That was, a bit of stress, but that's what ended up happening. And interestingly, what happened to us was that, we still saw it as not a proof of concept, but it was an interim tool we were building to help them this year to not use the things that they were using. And so they, it wasn't up all the time. We didn't really consider it a production-ready environment yet. So from time to time, we would take it down and we would do things with it. And sure enough, as soon as we started to take it down, I would have 8 users downstairs in my office what did you do, what did you do? And it became clear to us almost immediately that the answer was this is a production environment. The users have already gravitated to it. The adoption was very, very fast. And let's build a dev environment very quickly so that we can do our playing. So, the long story short was it's probably the fastest adoption of a platform or a piece of software that we've seen, in years. And so it's been very good for us. What's been most successful and unique about this product is how the accountants, I think because they have they have control in Excel, and they really are not bound to make anything they want, they started to see all kinds of other applications for the product in our environment. So it is now, the footprint has expanded from just budgeting and forecasting to they are doing monthly financials, because now the monthly financials can be done such that property managers can be made to put their variance explanations in a spreadsheet immediately. So we're seeing expansion of the product quite rapidly, and we went from probably 15 to 20 seats to 170 seats in a matter of 2 years, and it continues to grow. I think the other thing for us that made it compelling, and I would say with an interesting question, I'm not sure how many users use it this way or not, we wanted to unleash the general ledger inside Excel naturally, but we weren't just unleashing the general ledger inside Excel was dangerous to us, because it means that what you don't want is you don't want everybody to come up with their own version of EBITDA or NOI or any of the financial statistics that they're essentially reporting on. So what we did was we ended up with two scenarios. One is the GL itself, and the other is calculated financial statements. So in our warehouse, we have pre-calculated financial statements for all entities and properties and versions of the ledger, so that when an accountant wants to get EBITDA or NOI or real estate tax or total operating expenses and get schedules across buildings, within a building, and get drill downs and such, there's no risk of them having to recalculate their idea of EBITDA inside of a financial statement. When the financial statement formats change in our core system, they change inside the warehouse, and they change for spreadsheet servers. So we built a very tight linkage from our ERP system and financial statement generation into spreadsheet server, which I think really helps a lot, because now management knows that whomever is reporting on whatever, that those numbers are in concert with what our published financial results are. And I think that too, from an implementation point of view, was unique. Unique within this product's ability to do it, and I think added to the adoption.